Olá, bem-vindos ao Road to GLEX. No programa desta semana, começamos a contagem decrescente para o GLEX Summit 2021, cimeira de referência e a maior, dedicada à exploração científica e que reúne em Portugal a elite dos exploradores mundiais. Mas também queremos mostrar o que podemos descobrir em Portugal e hoje rumamos ao norte do país, a um lugar que conta muitas histórias, o Centro de Ciência Viva de Foz Côa. Percorra connosco o circuito do Museu de Arte Rupestre e conheça as atividades disponíveis para os jovens exploradores. Venha daí!
O Coparque é uma fundação que tem como missão a salvaguarda e valorização de toda a arte rupestre do Vale do Côa. Tem sobre a sua alçada, chamamos-lhe assim, a gestão do museu e também do Parque Arqueológico Vale do Côa.
Meu nome é Thierry Aubry, sou arqueólogo, responsável técnico-científico do Museu e Parque Arqueológico do Vale do Côa. Comecei a sonhar ser arqueólogo com 16, 17 anos, quando vi o meu professor de História mostrou um documentário. Ele mostrou um documentário sobre uma escavação arqueológica nos anos 70, em França. E no fim deste documentário aparecia um professor de escola que vivia a 20 km da minha cidade e assim que eu comecei realmente a gostar de ser arqueólogo.
Na Coparque pode fazer muita coisa. Podemos vir à descoberta, podemos visitar as gravuras, podemos desfrutar desta paisagem, portanto há um conjunto alargado de atividades que podemos fazer. Como é que as podemos fazer? Portanto, temos um conjunto de visitas aos sítios. Temos 3 sítios abertos ao público, que é o sítio da Penascosa, da Canada do Inferno e da Ribeira dos Piscos. Essas visitas podem ser feitas através de viaturas todo terreno, de canoa, embarcação eletrossolar ou então através de uma caminhada. Qualquer das visitas requer uma marcação prévia. Podemos também visitar o nosso museu. O nosso museu tem uma coleção temporária e também depois, que neste momento é a coleção do mestre João Cotileiro, e temos também depois todos os conteúdos que revelam a história do homem e o seu enquadramento da arte no Côa e no mundo.
Quando chegamos em 95, o que era expectável é encontrar uma fase de ocupação humana com arte. Nunca se pensou que íamos ter, desde o início do Paleolítico Superior, com a chegada do Homo sapiens sapiens, quer dizer que temos os níveis do início da ocupação, do Olignacense, e até o fim do Paleolítico Superior, quer dizer que temos uma longa ocupação humana, quer dizer que não são sítios que foram temporariamente ocupados, temos uma longa ocupação humana ao longo sobretudo, e desde poucos anos, sabemos que o homem neandertal também ocupou esta região. Quer dizer, que quando chega o Homo sapiens sapiens, já temos dezenas de milhares de anos de ocupação pelo homem de neandertal. Estamos realmente numa região com o potencial fora do normal. Quer dizer que há muitas coisas para fazer. Eu acho que isto foi uma aposta para as próximas gerações também. Quer dizer que um projeto de emergência que estava ligado à construção de uma grande obra é um prazo relativamente curto. Passamos a uma escala onde passamos as várias gerações e que temos realmente uma responsabilidade para dar as condições para daqui 50 ou 100 anos, um século, as pessoas terem as condições para fazer ciência. Porque para mim o que chamamos de fazer ciência fundamental é sobretudo aquisição de conhecimento que tem que ser divulgado para o grande público. Eu acho que isto é fundamental. Estamos a produzir conhecimento. Este conhecimento é o fundamento do museu e do parque.
Depois desta imersão no património de Foz Côa, seguimos até Nova Iorque, ao encontro de Anne Passer. E a Anne, do The Explorers Club, traz-nos uma convidada muito especial. Hi Anne, thank you for joining us. Are you already on the road to GLEX State of Mind?
Absolutely. We started earlier today and now we're going to forge ahead. And this time we have someone very, very special for you.
Yeah, I know that you are not alone. Could you please introduce who do you bring today?
It's my pleasure to introduce you to Sara Parcak. Sara Parcak is a professor of anthropology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. She's an Egyptologist and an archaeologist and co-directs the joint mission to Lisht in Egypt. She's most recently author of Archaeology from Space, How the Future Shapes Our Past. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to her. Katerina, please meet Sara.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you, Anne, and welcome, Sara. Good to have you here. Could you share with us why did you decide to become an archaeologist?
Well, first of all, thank you, Anne, for that lovely introduction, and it's just wonderful to be here. You know, I've loved archaeology ever since I was a tiny child. I think I probably spent more time in the sandbox than all the other kids combined. I always loved finding things. I was always good at finding things. I had a real eye for finding things like lost coins on the ground. You know, I can't really explain why I was drawn to Egypt. Most Egyptologists will tell you they started loving Egypt and mummies and pyramids when they were 3 and 4 years old. And where I grew up in central Maine in the 1980s, you know, this was pre-internet, pre-cable. There was really no reason for me to accidentally see a show on Egypt. Maybe I saw something about the Tut exhibit when it was coming through America again. But ever since I was a young child, I just loved learning about ancient Egypt and archaeology. And I was lucky when I was an undergraduate at Yale University to be able to study Egyptology. And as soon as I got to go on my first dig to Egypt, I was hooked for life.
And nowadays, what are you doing exactly?
So I'm keeping very busy. So as Anne mentioned, I co-direct with Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities the joint mission to Lisht. Lisht was ancient Egypt's capital around 4,000 years ago during a period of time known as the Middle Kingdom. There are 2 pyramids there. There are thousands of tombs of all the officials and individuals who lived at the capital in the Middle Kingdom. So it's a lengthy project. We've been working there for about 5 years. It's just such a thrill to be able to go back. We were hoped to go back last year, but obviously with COVID, we couldn't. So hopefully later this year or next year to get back in the field and working. The other thing I do aside from my standard research and teaching at my university, I am the founder of a not-for-profit called Global Explorer. We're based here in Birmingham, Alabama, and we focus on using innovative technologies to help map and protect the world's cultural heritage for future generations. We launched our online platform, globalexplorer.org, in 2015, 2016. And it's an online platform that allows anyone in the world to look at satellite images and help us map archaeological sites. So we are actually going to India next. Again, we had a slight delay with COVID. We're in the process of rebuilding the platform right now, but we're working really closely with the Ministry of Culture in India, the Archaeological Survey of India, and hopefully that will get launched again end of this year, beginning of next year. So in spite of COVID, we're managing to keep busy.
Okay, so you are really busy.
Try to be.
Which one was your greatest achievement or archaeological find?
Wow, it's funny. I get asked that often, and the answer keeps changing because my research keeps changing. But I like to answer is whatever's next. I've been so blessed to be able to work in Egypt for 20 years. I've been able to collaborate on so many different projects around the world where we've found, tombs and Viking longhouses and Roman roads. Inca fortresses on hilltops in Central America. The work that I did in collaboration with my colleagues in Peru helped to lead to the discovery of new Nazca lines, these extraordinary geoglyphs carved onto the side of hills. And now that we're working in India, we're partnering with our colleagues at India's Archaeological Survey, and we're already finding previously unknown or unmapped archaeological sites. So for me, it's whatever I'm lucky to be working on presently, and compared to the rest of the world, there's whether it's Southeast Asia, whether it's Sub-Saharan Africa, there's so many places in the world that just aren't as well mapped. So I'm so excited about the Global Explorers having the chance to go to India next, and I'm really, really excited about what we'll find there. I think that my favorite archaeological discovery is yet to come.
And what inspires you the most about your work?
For me, now that I'm, I'd say approaching the middle part of my career, I get most inspired by the next generation of scholars. I'm seeing so many extraordinary undergraduate and graduate students and early career researchers who are, not only doing amazing cutting edge work with computation, with applying new scientific tools and techniques, but they're really helping to level the playing field. They're helping to call out so many of the issues and problems and challenges in archaeology, and they're inspiring me to work harder and to use my platform and my privilege to make archaeology more accessible and more open and more available to the world. I think it's really the next generation of young scientists that keep me energized and certainly keep me on my toes.
And what would you say to Portuguese kids and teenagers that dream with your job?
So what I would say is, when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, in middle school and high school, and even starting off in university, the work that I do, using satellite images to map archaeological sites, it didn't even exist. So whatever it is they're dreaming about doing with technology, whether it doesn't matter if it's archaeology, anything in science, anything using computers, if you can dream it, you can do it. My career is an example of this. I love the idea of doing survey work on the ground, but to be able to say, use satellites up in space and looking down and mapping things, to me, that seemed more science fiction than science when I was in high school and starting off in college. So I would tell these bright young students, dream and use your imaginations and use all that great creativity and all those wonderful tools and technologies that you have access to that my generation didn't growing up. And you can do anything you imagine.
Thank you so much, Sara, for those inspiring words. It was a pleasure to have you here. See you in Portugal next month. And thank you, Anne. See you here on the next Road to GLEX. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Expanding World in association with the Explorers Club are proud sponsors of this episode of Life's Tough, Explorers Are Tougher, and the Global Exploration Summit.
One of the things I find most interesting when two explorers get together is we sort of trade stories. This is Life's Tough, but explorers are tougher. I'm your host, Richard Weiss. I love the outdoors. I always have, and I always will. Richard, you know how crazy this story is.
That is all true, that I had the great honor of shepherding James Doohan up into space.
I've heard stories that would make the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
I've been a pilot since I was 19, and one thing that you're trained as a pilot is to constantly evaluate risk, including yourself. Are you fit to fly? Are the conditions too dangerous for you in your current state with your current equipment?
I'm comfortable walking out on a limb that I think could very well break. And I always tell people the only way you're really going to know how to sail is if you tip the boat over, right?
Explorers are the type of people who walk in space, go to the bottom of the ocean, and stand on the highest summits.
And then I stopped dead in my tracks when I looked up and there's a big portrait of my mother just staring right at me.
At the American Museum of Natural History.
At the American Museum of Natural History.
Going to the North Pole in this small group of people and having Neil Armstrong and Ed Hillary as your partners in the trip was an incredible experience. And it makes you realize the people factor is really what it's all about.
You know, one of the biggest discoveries that we've made is just that there was a long-lasting lake of liquid water in our landing site, Gale Crater. And this water wasn't something that was very acidic, it was actually neutral.
Scratch the surface of any explorer and you'll find they're all storytellers.
I was a friend of Neil Armstrong because we never spoke about the moon, you know?
You know, when you think of New Jersey, you should think of dinosaurs. The world's first nearly complete dinosaur skeleton was found in New Jersey. The world's first tyrannosaur was found in New Jersey, a mile from the fossil park.
And so I learned a lot from her. I did teach her how to hunt and kept coming back and traveling throughout a lot of the Cheetah Range countries.
This show is about their tales.
Por esta semana é tudo. Despedimos até ao próximo Road to GLEX.